Hi everybody, Julie Ebersole with a brand new release for Hutson.com. I've got two new stamp sets and a really fun and funky die for January 2018. Swale is a fun set that has two whales and some little fish and some really interesting textural elements that are fun to combine. Next up is Arctic Pals, which has some really delightful animal guys you can play with and make polar snow scenes with. And then we've got a Strands Die, which has a really neat effect. You can do a lot of different things with it, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. First up, I'm going to talk about the stamp set called Swale. Now here's my two little whale guys. I think they're so fun, and I deliberately left them plain for a really good reason. Now you can color them just about any way you want, and I left them open. There's an open line design. You can watercolor, you can color with Copic markers. Got some matching little minnows there, little tiny fish to go with them. And then I've got these really neat textural elements that are super fun to combine in different ways with these whales. And I've also got, of course, some little ocean waves there because, of course, they need to have some water to be swimming in, right? Now, the first one I wanted to show you is just watercoloring that whale, all plain, and I made a little action wobbler. And here's another example of just watercoloring him and using the waves there down below. And I also wanted to mention how fun it is to combine this set with another called Stay Salty that was released previously because it didn't have a whale. So now you can combine these two for all kinds of fun scenes. Example of how you can take one of those images that does fit perfectly inside the whale and create a fun little scene inside him. And here is an example of those smaller, tiny shard type solid triangles that are used to embellish his belly. And then I also have these other textural elements that these kind of reminded me of barnacles. They're like little pinwheels, but they could be limpets or barnacles, you know, because whales get those. And I just thought it was a fun way to add an element of texture to the card. And this one are these super teeny tiny triangles that are open, and they reminded me of ice, you know, like just a frozen effect. And it makes me think of this whale being, you know, up in the Arctic. So that's kind of another way that you can use them. Now here I've got Arctic Pals, and they are so much fun to create scenes with. I love, you know, making winter scenes with these guys. I've got an iceberg in there for them. There is a mama polar bear and a baby polar bear. We've got Arctic foxes, a narwhal, and of course we've got these cheeky little penguins that are really fun to make a scene with. That their eyes just crack me up. And that one on his belly, he could be swimming, he could be floating on his back, and here I've got him speeding down the slope on his belly, and I think that's just a really fun way to use them. And then here I've got these guys are ready for a snowball fight, and they got their little pom-poms there, and they're ready to go. On this one, I wanted to create an almost snow globe effect or scene for my polar bears and icebergs. So I die cut a window through the front of my card and layered some pattern paper and vellum behind to diffuse it. But I love how cool it turned out. And then on this one, I've got my little Arctic fox there just sitting in the snowdrifts. It's so sweet. And then I've got my narwhal, and my narwhal is a shaker card here. He's in the ocean there, and you've got the micro beads and the snowflake sequins there behind him. This makes a great shaker card effect. I love those micro beads. And I'm going to talk a little bit now about the Strands Die. This die is pretty slick in that it can go horizontal or vertical depending on the kind of effect you're trying to create. And one of my favorites was to just sponge some ink colors over my cardstock and then die cut it out. And here I used it to create the shaker window for my narwhal card. But then I had the remnant pieces there that had been die cut out, so I glued those to a piece of clear plastic and then mounted that with pop-up dots to this card to create a dimensional ocean wave that was solid there for my whale. So it makes a really neat backdrop. So don't throw away those pieces after you die cut your window. Save them because they're so fun to use in other ways. Here's just another example where I die cut it through my card and layered it with some acetate on the back. And I haven't even finished this one yet, but then I took the die cut pieces and went ahead and glued those flush to my base card to create snowdrifts for my penguins to be having their snowball fight in. So there's a lot of versatility. You can use this as a stencil. It's just got a lot of options built into it. So this was an overview of my latest release for Hutson. I hope you've enjoyed, and thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please show us some love by giving us a thumbs up. You can see more papercraft videos by clicking on the photos below and by subscribing to our channel. Thanks for watching.